Welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm excited again, as always, to bring you fresh, new content, new insights, new details about the things that are important to you so you can be a better leader. You can do the better things at work so that you can retain your top talent and find some success. Now, today, I want to have a special conversation, and this is the beginning of a new series. So I want you to kind of tap in and pay attention. And that is, have you ever wondered if you could know before you applied for a job or before you accepted a job, whether this company or this organization was going to be a hard place for you to work? Now, when I mean a hard place for you to work, that you were going to be working long hours, that you are not going to be supported, that you are not going to be able to get the days off that you want. You didn't have any flexibility, that they literally were going to burn you out and break you down to the bone gristle. Wouldn't you like to know that before you apply for that job? And if you are in human capital, let's say you're the HR director and you're looking for a new opportunity, would you want to go be the leader of HR in a company where you know that no matter what you do, there was going to be high turnover? No matter what you do, there were going to be people who feel like, the company doesn't care about them? Would you want to go work for a leadership team who said, I don't care what you got to do, just hire some new people, even if the turnover rate is high? Would you want to work in a place like that? Well, I would say that most people don't want to work in places like that, but there are lots of places like that that exist. And when I mean places that exist, I call them, they're on the struggle bus. They're struggling to retain talent. They're struggling to build a good culture. They're struggling to keep people productive. They're struggling to retain customers because customers can see all of these problems when they walk in the door and don't want to shop or do business or support or engage with businesses who can't keep good people. We all have had this experience before, and this is my personal experience. I'm going to share it. There was a restaurant that I really enjoyed. And the reason why I enjoyed it, because the person who would wait on me when I would come to this restaurant, I would ask for her on purpose. Where's Tina? I want to sit in Tina's section today, because Tina was great. She had a great smile, a good heart. She was fun. All of the things were cool about Tina, just kind of sit in her section, because she was not only a great waiter and was able to take care of us, but she literally had a pleasant disposition and we engaged in good conversation. Well, one day I came to this restaurant and Tina was no longer there. And I was like, well, where's Tina? She quit. Well, why did she quit? Well, last night the manager put her on a double schedule and didn't tell her in time, and she had to get her son to school and blah, 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 blah. So she just walked out. Like, she literally walked out. And so now, even though the food is pretty much still the same, the experience ain't the same for me at that restaurant because Tina is no longer there. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you that we all have seen customer service decline. We have had problems in most businesses that we engage with through the pandemic, and some have turned it around post-pandemic. But I bet you if I asked you right now to type into the chat, a company or a business that you have frequented in the past that used to have good customer service, but today has bad customer service, I'm almost certain that you can name at least 3 places. At least 3 places. So today, what I want to do for you is I'm going to do 2 things. First thing is, we're going to talk about the 5 industries that are struggling with retaining great employees and building a great culture. I'm going to lay out the 5 industries. And when I lay these industries out, you're going to see that this is a lot of places in which we frequent on a regular basis. Not only is it a lot of places, these industries have a large number of employees. Like 70 million employees work in these 5 industries combined. So I want you to think about that. There are only and 30 million people in the United States of America. And let's just say almost half of them are children. So they're young kids. So we talking, 100, and let's just say 180 million people who are adults in the United States of America. And 70 million of them work in these industries. 70 million. That's a lot of people who work in 5 industries where they know that they're going to be working harder than they want to be, not getting rewarded, not getting recognized, not being productive. And yes, most of them are going to quit because nobody wants to work in a bad culture. Now, I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit talking about the bad culture, but let me first lay out the 5 industries that are struggling with employees, that are struggling with talent, that are struggling to build a culture, that are struggling to keep you happy as a customer. And then after I lay out those 5 industries, I'm going to give you the 5 reasons why each of them are struggling. But this will be quick and brief today. But over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to dive deeper into each one of these industries. So if you work in one of these industries, if you are an employee that provides some level of service in one of these industries, you probably need to pay attention to look around what's going on inside of your workplace, and more importantly, what you can do about it. And I'm going to give you some examples, a couple of examples of how these industries are struggling. So let me jump right into it because I don't want to be here super long. So the first industry that is struggling to retain top talented employees and build a great culture is the banking and finance industry. Banking and finance industry. Now, some people are like, banking seems to be good. No, banking ain't doing good, y'all. Banking hasn't been doing good for a long time. And there are a lot of reasons why, and I'm going to summarize these reasons a little bit later. But let me give you an example, 2 examples of what is going wrong in the banking and finance industry. And one of them, you probably heard about it on the news recently. I'm not going to name the company right now, but this is easily Googleable. And that's a word if you want it to be a word. Googleable is a verb to find out this particular situation. And that is in the last 2 weeks, an employee was found dead in their cubicle at work and apparently had been there for 4 days. That somebody went to work in their cubicle and died in the cubicle and nobody noticed them for 4 days. Now, when I saw this story, 100 questions went through my mind. 100 questions went through my mind. Like, did nobody in their family check on them? Was nobody in the family missing them? And how bad of a workplace is it when your coworkers don't even come by and check on you? Nobody invites you to lunch. You're not on a team or on a project with people, and nobody asks, have you turned your part in for the project? You didn't reply to my email. Nobody's checking on this person. That's insane. But it's reality that in banking and finance, people are struggling. And that's one example of somebody dying at work and people not noticing. There's a second banking example that happened earlier this year where someone had clocked over 100 hours in a week at work and this person died. So I see this is resonating with some of you, 25 years in the industry and got sick of it and left. Bad CEO. Yes, banking and finance is struggling right now. And there's some reasons why I'm going to lay them out in a second. But let me get to the second industry that I know a whole lot about, this second industry after working in it for more than 25 years. And that industry is healthcare. Healthcare is struggling. Now, I know most of you probably remember in the middle of the pandemic how people would hang up these signs and be cheering, saying, our healthcare heroes, like loving on the healthcare workforce because of the hard job that they were doing to help save save lives, help people to survive through the pandemic. We all know what healthcare workers were doing during the pandemic and how it was burning them out. But here's a news flash for you. The healthcare industry was burning out 10 years before the pandemic even got here. Let me give you a couple statistics. Did you know that way back in 2015, that 55% of physicians who were surveyed said that they expected to not be in the profession in the next 10 years? That 55% of physicians said that in 10 years, by 2025, they did not expect to be practicing medicine. They didn't want to be a physician anymore. Like, who goes to school from 18 till you're 35 years old and then answers a survey that said in 10 years, I'm going to quit this profession? Well, that's healthcare. Did you also know that nurses burn out at an alarming rate, that there are literally some hospitals that every 3 years they turn over every single nurse? So let me give you some percentage of numbers. Let's say your local health system has 10,000 employees. Let's just say that. They got 10,000 employees. And let's say that roughly 2,500 of them, 25% of the workforce is nurses. And that in 3 years' time, you will have lost and rehired 2,500 employees. That's just nurses. But there are other positions in healthcare that are also turning over at an alarming rate. And you wonder why some of us can't get good care when we come to a hospital, because somebody's always training. I mean, there's this myth that I don't want to go to a teaching hospital. But let me tell you, teaching hospitals are some of the best places to be because they got all the experts there. But every hospital is struggling with turnover, teaching or non-teaching. So I want you to know healthcare is struggling to retain talent and to build a culture where people don't want to quit. People are quitting as soon as they can find another opportunity. I know people in healthcare that if they can get a nickel more to go work at another health system, they'll quit over 5 cents per hour. That might make some difference, but that over a year's time, a nickel more on an hourly wage ain't gonna make that much difference. But people will quit. Healthcare is struggling to retain talent. Now, here's the third industry that is struggling to retain talent, and this is going to surprise a lot of you. The industry is the technology industry or the tech sector. Yes, I'm talking Google, Amazon, Instacart, DoorDash. Think of every app that you use that is technology based. Uber, you name the company, the technology company, they're all struggling to retain talent and build a culture where nobody wants to quit. They're all struggling. I mean, Facebook is struggling. You know, Tesla is struggling. Tesla is a technology company. It's not a car company. They just happen to make cars, but it's a tech company. And they're struggling bad. Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it today is struggling. All of the technology companies are struggling to retain talent. Their issues are different than the first two industries that I've named. And I'll come back to tell you more about that. But I want you to know the tech sector is struggling. So if you know somebody in the tech sector, just know that they probably ain't been with that company very long. And they probably won't stay with the company that they're with very long. They're going to leave and they're going to go somewhere else. And you, as a leader in human capital or any other area that has to hire people, the people you hire today probably won't be there 3 years from now. They won't. They'll be working for somebody else, doing something else, and they will be enjoying that for another 2 to 3 years, and then they're going to leave them too. So the technology sector is struggling massively, 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 massively. Now, the fourth sector that is struggling And this is going to be a super obvious one to all of us, and that is the retail sector. Retail sector. So whether it's food and beverage retail, so think your restaurants, your bars, your hotels, or whether it's other aspects of retail that where we come in as consumers to buy goods and services, these industries, these businesses in that industry are struggling. And they've always struggled. Like, I mean, always struggled. Like, I'll give you one example. I was fairly close to a director of operations at a very successful fast food chain, arguably the most successful fast food chain in the history of all of fast food. I mean, like, really, really successful. And it's not the one with the golden arcs or the arches. It's the one that encourages you to eat more chicken. Well, this director of operations that I was talking to at that high-end fast food restaurant that everybody loves to enjoy told me that they were struggling to keep talent. And I said, say what? Everybody loves working here. They're great customer service. I mean, the people are so nice. And he says, Anton, you don't notice that we perpetually have people that have trainee badges on? I was like, yeah, I did notice that. I thought y'all was just staffing up. He says, yeah, we staffing up because everybody we had, we lost. They left us. I said, well, why did they leave? He said, man, and he tried to put it on the kids. These kids are fickle. Young people don't know what they want to do. All of those things. But I do know this, that they put somebody through training. They work for 2 days and then they quit. So if this franchise is struggling with talent, I know all of the other fast food chains are struggling with talent. And just think about your experience as a customer at any fast food restaurant over the last, I want to say, 4 years. Has it been ideal? When they call it fast food, are you getting through the drive-through fast? Are you getting good customer service? Is your order right all the time? No, it's probably not been. That customer experience is rough right now. That customer experience is super rough right now because the retail industry is struggling for a lot of reasons. And I'm going to tell you about those reasons in a second. And I see that some folks are already commenting that management is the problem. Ding, 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 ding. Management is the problem, but there's some other problems. And I'm going to lay out those problems in a few seconds. So let me get to the last industry that people are struggling in, and that is hospitality. Hospitality. So I just said hotels a few minutes ago, and hotels is probably more in hospitality than it is in retail. So think about your local hotel. They're struggling with talent. Like, listen, when I say they're struggling with talent, they're even struggling with managers. So I was talking to a hoteler maybe a couple months ago. We were at a reception and at an event, and I was having a great conversation with him. And I said, well, how many hotels do you own? He told me, I think it was 3 hotels, if I'm not mistaken. And I said, well, tell me about your workforce. How are things going with your workforce? He basically said, my turnover rate is more than 50%, that he loses 50% of his employees. I said, wow, that's incredibly high. I said, well, why is it so high? He said, because my manager turnover rate is about 50%. I was like, your manager turnover rate? Why are you hiring managers that's quitting in a year or two? He says, I know. He says, I knew it when I was hiring him. So I said, well, why you hired him? He said, because that's just the nature of the industry. He says, I know that I'm going to lose 50% of the people that I hired. That's it. He just accepted and resigned to the fact that there was nothing he could do about the turnover rate. And I fundamentally believe that there's always something you can do. You just probably don't want to do it. But literally in hospitality. So think your hotels, think your massage parlors and spas, think about travel and leisure companies, airlines, anything that we need to be hospitable around. They're struggling to retain talent and build a great culture. Even the historic brands that we all know or we all think we know that are doing a good job, they're all struggling to retain talent in hospitality. Everybody's struggling. It is super bad out here in these streets. So these are the 5 industries. I'm going to summarize them again, and I'm going to tell you about the 5 reasons that they're struggling with these things. And then next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I'm going to unpack each one of these industries. So next week will be about banking and finance. The week after that will be about healthcare. The week after that will be about technology. We're going to talk about retail and hospitality. So if you know people who work in these industries or leaders who lead in these industries, if you want your whole HR team to be on this, you better make sure you tell them right now that they need to follow Anton Gunn. They need to tap in to what Anton Gunn is talking about, because he's about to break down the problem in your industry and give you some solutions to address that problem, because that's my focus. I'm really into solutions. I want you to be successful. And as a keynote speaker, my presentations address these challenges head on. As an advisor, I help companies to solve these challenges head on, and I really want to help you. This is my mission. I'm not doing this for fun. I'm doing this because this is what God put on my life in order to be able to do. Okay. So the 5 industries: banking and finance, healthcare, technology, retail, and hospitality. Now, here's the summary of the 5 reasons why these industries are struggling. They're on the struggle bus. That's what I call this session here today, is get off the struggle bus. You are on the struggle bus of retaining talent and building a great culture. I want to get you off the struggle bus so you can do both of those things very well. Keep your good people, number 1, and number 2, build a culture where they thrive and they never want to quit. So here's the first reason that all 5 of these industries are struggling. And number 1 is burnout and overwork. That if you just think about those 5 industries that I named: banking, healthcare, technology, retail, and hospitality, people don't work 40 hours a week in those jobs, 50, 60, 70. And I told you about a banking employee who died at work for working 100 hours a week. Burnout, overwork is real. And these industries are doing nothing to address the burnout and overwork challenge. Some of them have resigned themselves to say, you know what, the work is hard. And if you don't want to work hard, go somewhere else. That's silly, because they are going somewhere else. And that's the reason why you're losing money. See, people don't realize how much money it takes to rehire and retrain somebody else. You're spending so much more money on rehiring and retraining people that is bleeding you dry, and you don't see it. You know why you don't see it? Because it's not on the top line of revenue. It's on the bottom line of expenses. You don't see it that way. You're looking for the top line: how we making more money, how we selling more widgets, how we booking more trips, how we are getting more customers and giving out more loans and getting more people subscribed to our app. You're thinking about everything that brings in money, but you're not thinking about the thing that's costing you money. And that is your employees burning out and being overworked, that they quit. And they tell everybody, don't go work there because the culture is toxic, because they just work you to death. They work you like a slave. They work you like, like they own you. That's reason number 1 as to why people are leaving these industries and they can't keep the good people or build a great culture, is because of burnout and overwork. That's right. They don't care. You are just a number, a badge number. Employee 5,908. They don't care about you. Burnout and overwork is real. Now, here's the second reason why these industries are on the struggle bus, is lack of engagement with their employees. So when I say lack of engagement with their employees, they don't even try to keep you engaged. They don't keep you informed about what's going on. Like some employees in these industries are the last people to find out that we getting ready to have a layoff. They're the last people to find out that a division is closed. Last people to find out anything. They're just not engaged. The organization is not doing a good job of hosting town hall meetings and talking about what's going on in the company, telling them about new products and services. They're the last to find out anything. They checked out at work. They're checked out because their managers don't even really know their name. I mean, I've talked to some employees, and I'll name the industry, banking and finance. That literally, when I go in there to make a deposit or to transact business around my company, they ask me, Mr. Gunn, what do you do? And I tell them I'm a leadership development consultant that helps leaders and organizations build diverse, high performing teams and a world class culture. And inside the bank, the employees said, well, they need you here. Well, why do they need me there? Because they don't care about us. They don't care nothing about us. They need all kinds of training because they don't care about us. Yes, these are employees saying this to me because they're not engaged. They don't know what's going on. They're not really valued or supported in the work environment. So that is why people are choosing to quit, because you're not engaging them. You're not seeing them beyond their role. You don't see them as anything other than the person that's in that job right now. And I posted this on Labor Day. I posted that when you see people beyond their role, when you see employees for their whole totality, that just because somebody comes to work in marketing at your company today doesn't mean that's all they ever knew. They might have worked in operations before they pivoted to marketing. So they got skills and experience somewhere else. But if you don't engage them, you will never know what skills that they have. You will never know what they're capable of doing. All of us haven't done the same job their whole life. We've had multiple career paths and multiple experiences. So you got to find a way to do a better job of engaging people. And the lack of engagement is why people are quitting. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me move on to number 3. The third reason why people are leaving these 5 industries is what I call cultural mismanagement. Now, when I say cultural mismanagement, here's what I want you to understand. Cultural mismanagement means that your company has not evolved with the changing nature of work. What do I mean evolved? So let's put it to you this way. American employees have transformed over the last 30 years. We are not the same type of employees that we were in the 1970s. The workforce is different today, and the needs of the workforce are different today. But so many people in these industries are still operating on a 1970s model. Like they might do scheduling like it's 1970s. Like think about restaurants. Like I remember when I worked at Wendy's in 1989, the manager would just sit down and make out the schedule for the next 2 weeks and then post it on the wall. And that's when we know we're supposed to work. Like the manager by herself would sit down and make out a 2-week schedule and then post it on the wall. And then all of us would come in that day and look and see when we working. And then most of us would be like, okay, I'm good with most of this, but dang, Friday's my mama's birthday and I got to work on my mama's birthday. Cindy, can I have that day off? No, you can't have that day off because, I set the schedule and the schedule ain't changing. That's an outdated way of making a schedule. And so the reason why companies are struggling is because they got cultural misalignment or mismanagement, which is they're not talking to their employees about work schedules. That's just one example. Not building in flexibility around work schedules or not allowing people to work from home. Like I got into this back and forth deep argument about a tech company complaining, a tech CEO complaining that the biggest problem in the industry right now is that people are lazy because they want to work from home, and their work from home is driving us down from not being a number one company. And I'm like, that ain't what's driving you down. There's been plenty of companies who have had work from home policies for more than a decade, and they're doing very well. But it's your misalignment and mismanagement of your culture, not knowing what's important to your employees is what's driving your company down. You don't offer flexibility. No work from home, no flex days. Your benefits ain't even matching up today. I mean, like when I say benefits not matching up, there's so many employers who are still behind of offering in vitro fertilization as an employee benefit for the women and families that work there. I know people who have quit jobs and joined the military because the military provides that as a benefit what the company didn't provide the benefit. And this company was in the banking and finance industry. So you got to keep up with the times. You can't be mismanaging the culture. Another example of mismanagement is this whole conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion. That if you're in these 5 industries, banking, healthcare, technology, retail, and hospitality, and you're not prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion, you got employees who are walking out the door to go work for somebody else who is prioritizing these things. That's real life and real talk. You got to understand that that is a value proposition. It's not a cool thing to do or a fun thing to do or whatever you want to phrase it up around this DEI. It's a business imperative that people want to work at places where people look like them. They want to work for leaders that value diversity, whether it be gender diversity, racial diversity, socioeconomic diversity. People want to see people that look like them in leadership, which means you need to be promoting people in leadership. And so your DEI program can't just be words, because if it's words, that's why people are quitting. And that's what I call cultural mismanagement. And let me get to number 4. The 4th reason why these 4 industries are struggling with their talent and struggling to maintain a culture is because competition. See, how many hotel chains are out there? How many different banks that you can bank at? How many hospitals or doctor's office or clinics you can choose to go to as a customer? If you don't like AT&T's service, can't you just switch to somebody else? If you don't like this version, can't you just switch to another version? If you don't like this app, can't you find 5 more apps to do the same thing? If you don't like Marriott hotels, can't you go to Hilton? There's significant competition. And in the retail sector, it's massive. TJ Maxx versus Marshalls versus the Gap versus H&K versus what, you can go find the blouse or the top that you want at any place out there. You don't have to stay in one brand. So because of that level of competition, these companies focus on short-term gains versus long-term stability. Like they're so myopically focused on how do we do what we got to do right now so that we can win this week. This is going back to the scheduling. So you might have a company that says, oh, it's Labor Day weekend, so let's make sure that we do our best job of getting customers in and out of the store. So they double staff and double shift everybody over Labor Day weekend, make people work 80 hours over Labor Day weekend because they know everybody's going to be out shopping on Labor Day weekend. Not realizing that they burning people out, giving them 80 hours in a weekend. 80 hours in a weekend when they normally only work 35 or 40. See, that's short term. Because what's going to happen as soon as Labor Day over with, employees are saying this kind of stuff. Man, as soon as we get past this holiday, I'm out of here. I know I ain't even got no job, but I'm just going to drive Uber or do DoorDash until I find something else. But the way they treated me this weekend, I ain't about it no more. I know about companies in these industries who don't even let people off for funerals sometimes. I can tell you another horror story of an employee who literally was in the hospital dying of cancer and was still logging into Teams meetings at work, was terminal with cancer, but was still logging into Teams meetings. So they so competitive that they pushing employees to do all kinds of things that are not good for the employee's health. And people see that. And that's why they decide to throw up the 2 fingers. I'm out. I'm quitting. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. Because the competition is so fierce, the companies are focused on short-term gains and not long-term stability. You got to stop focusing on the short term and build a long-term sustainable model. Now, the last reason why these industries are struggling is because of inadequate compensation and benefits. Now, I already talked a little bit about benefits of not providing certain health insurance benefits to people, prescription drug coverage, flexibility, days off, etc. But in general, if you look across these 5 industries, they don't pay people particularly well, except for a couple of them. A couple of them pay people well, but in the couple that pay people well, there's another bank or another tech company that's willing to pay them more. So it ain't about the compensation per se, because you can always go get more money, but it's the benefits, it's the environment, it's the team that I'm on. People will stop chasing the dollar if they feel valued and respected at work. They will stop chasing the dollar if they feel like that this is a place they want to be long term because of the people that I'm around, because of the leadership that I have. But yes, several of these industries that we know about, retail, hospitality, even healthcare sometimes don't pay people well enough. I mean, like you can turn on the news right now and see hotel workers striking in the United States of America. Hotel workers are on strike in some places as I'm recording this. They're on strike right now. Not only that, if you are an AT&T customer in certain markets, I know you upset right now because AT&T employees have been on strike. AT&T is a technology company now. Everything they do got some technology in it, but their employees on strike around wages and how they're being treated. So your inadequate compensation and benefits are directly tied into why people don't want to work for you. In retail, we know that they stay high turnover because they just pay low wages. Retail, in large respects, relies on teenage labor. And when I say teenage labor, I'm talking 15 with a work permit, 16, 17, 18, 19. They rely on that. They'll have some 20-somethings in there. Like I was talking to a guy who manages a restaurant, general manager at a restaurant, and he was telling me that they had promoted or hired some 25, 26 years old into management. And when they opened 2 years ago, they had a full slate of managers, and literally 80% of them have turned over in the first 2 years. You lost 80% of your managers in 2 years. And then he was telling me about employees stealing and all kinds of stuff. You know why employees stealing? Because you ain't paying them enough. They ain't being treated well enough at work. So they feel like they got to steal. So these are some of the challenges in these top 5 industries. So as I close, I'm done here today, but I want you to tune in for the next 4 or 5 weeks, really 5 weeks. I'm going to unpack each one of these industries. So if you're in banking and finance, you want to pay attention next week. Healthcare 2 weeks from now, technology 3 weeks from now. I'm going through each one of these industries to break down the problem specifically to the industry and then offer some tangible, actionable solutions that you can implement right now as an HR team, as a leadership team, as a manager. These are things that you can do right now to make a difference. So I'm going to summarize 5 industries: banking, finance, healthcare, technology, retail, and hospitality. Those industries are on the struggle bus to retain talent and build a great culture. Why are they on the struggle bus? Burnout and overwork, lack of engagement, cultural misalignment, competition, and last but not least, compensation and benefits. So I'm happy to provide this content for you to try to add some value to you. If there's some specific needs that you have, let me give you this. Let me just do this for you. This would be really, really helpful to you and really, really helpful to me. And I didn't plan to do this today, but I just decided it would be a good idea. I have a free, confidential 10-question assessment that you can take right now to help see where you are in your organization, like to see if you really got a challenge. So that assessment is a 10-question confidential assessment. It'll give you a score and tell you about your culture in your organization. And if you go to workplacecultureassessment.com, so I'm going to see if I can type it in, workplacecultureassessment.com, workplacecultureassessment.com. If you go to it right now and fill out that 10-question assessment, 10-question assessment, workplacecultureassessment.com. I'll put it in the comment section for those of you watching on LinkedIn. I want you to take this assessment and see what your organizational culture is like. Give me some information, let me know. And if there's something that I can do to help you, support you, I will be in the comments. You can feel free to send me a direct message because I really want to help you to get through all of this. So I know I went a little long today than I normally do. We usually do this in about 20 to 25 minutes. But today I wanted to unpack the 5 industries that are on the struggle bus and why they're on the struggle bus. And then for the next 5 weeks, we're going to unpack these a little bit more and to help them to get off the struggle bus because I want you to win. So take the cultural assessment, go to, again, workplacecultureassessment.com. Workplacecultureassessment.com. Take the free assessment. And I love to try to add some value to you so you can be better as a leader. You can build a better culture. We can solve these problems. And I'd be happy to come to your organization and to help you to address them. Everybody have a fantastic day. Take care.